Chapter 3. Pakinakang Saigaha Vibago. Section 1. Samputa Yatayogang Te Panasa Sabhavato Chita Chetasika Dhamma Te Sangdani Yatarahang Vedana Hetuto Kichadwara Lamba Navatuto Chitu Pada Vasenaiva Sangaho Nama Niyate. Miscellaneous section. The conjoined consciousness and mental states that arise accordingly are 53. Now their classification, taking the mind as a whole, is dealt with in a fitting manner according to feeling, roots, function, doors, objects, and bases. Notes. 1. All the 89 classes of consciousness are collectively treated as one in that they possess the characteristic of awareness of an object. The 52 mental states are treated separately as they possess different characteristics. 1 plus 52 equals 53. 2. Chittaputada literally means a genesis of chitta. Here the term means consciousness itself, chittameva chittupado. In other instances, it implies the collection of mental states together with the consciousness, anyatapana dhammasimuho.
Vedana sangeha. 4. The summary of feeling. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Each of the kinds of feeling is attached to a particular type of consciousness. 1. In the summary of feeling, that is, 3, there are at first 3 kinds, that is, 4, pleasurable, painful, and that which is neither pleasurable nor painful. Or, again, it is 5-fold, namely, happiness, pain, pleasure, displeasure, or indifference or equanimity. Of them, moral resultant body consciousness is the only one accompanied by happiness. Similarly, immoral resultant body consciousness is the only one accompanied by pain. There are 62 kinds of consciousness accompanied by pleasure, namely, the 18 types of sense sphere consciousness such as 4 rooted in attachment, 12 types of sense sphere beautiful consciousness, the 2 types of investigating and smiling consciousness, that is, 40 plus 20, 44 types of sublime and supramundane consciousness pertaining to the first, second, third, and fourth jhanas, that is 12 plus 32. Only the 2 types of consciousness connected with aversion are accompanied by displeasure. All the remaining 55 types of consciousness are accompanied by indifference or equanimity. Feeling therein is threefold, namely, happiness, pain, and indifference. Together with pleasure and displeasure, it is 5-fold.
Happiness and pain are found in 1, displeasure in 2, pleasure in 62, and the remaining, indifference or equanimity, in 55. Note: Vedana is a significant mental state which is common to all types of consciousness. Feeling is its characteristic, or Vedayita lakkhana, and is born of contact. Sensation, therefore, is not an appropriate rendering for Vedana. Feeling is defined as a conscious, subjective impression which does not involve cognition or representation of an object. Sensation is explained as the content of sensuous intuition, or the way in which a conscious subject is modified by the presence of an object. Feeling modifies the stream of consciousness and serves both as a life-promoting and life-destroying force. Pleasure, for example, promotes life. Pain impairs it. As such, feeling plays a very important part in the life of man. Experiencing the taste of an object is the function of Vedana, or the understanding. Particular likes and dislikes depend on the desirability and the undesirability of the external object. Generally, they are mechanistic. Sometimes, the free will of a person determines the mode of feeling independent of the nature of the object. The sight of an enemy, for example, would normally be a source of displeasure. But a right understanding person, on the contrary, would extend his loving kindness toward him and experience some kind of pleasure. Socrates, for instance, drank that cup of poison with joy and faced a happy death. Once, a certain Brahmin poured a torrent of abuse on the Buddha, but he kept smiling and returned love unto him. The ascetic Kantivadi, who was brutally tortured by a drunkard king, wished him long life instead of cursing him. A bigoted non-Buddhist, on the other hand, may, even at the sight of a Buddha, harbor a thought of hatred. His feeling will be one of displeasure. Likewise, a similar feeling may arise in the heart of a bigoted Buddhist at the sight of a religious teacher of an alien faith. What is meat and drink to one may be poison to another. Material pleasures, for instance, would be highly prized by an average person. An understanding recluse would find happiness in renouncing them and leading a life of voluntary poverty in perfect solitude. Such a solitary life a sensualist may view as hell. Yes, what is heaven to one may be hell to another. We ourselves create them, and they are more or less mind-made. There are, O bhikkhus, two kinds of feeling, pain and happiness, says the Buddha. Well then, how can there be a third, which is neither pain nor happiness? The commentary states that blameless neutral feeling is included in happiness, and the blameworthy in pain. Again, the Buddha has stated that whatever is felt in this world, all that is pain. It is because of the changeable nature of all conditioned things. From another standpoint, considering all forms of feeling as purely mental, there are only three kinds, namely happiness, sukha, pain, dukkha, and neutral, adukkama sukha. Atta Salina explains them as follows. The term sukha means pleasurable feeling, or sukha vedana, root of happiness, sukha mula, pleasurable object, sukharamana, cause of happiness, sukha hetu, conditioning state of pleasure, sukha pachatayana, free from troubles, abhyapajjaha, nibbana, etc. In the expression by eliminating sukha, sukha means pleasurable feeling. In the expression sukha is non-attachment in this world. Here, sukha means root of pleasure. In the expression, since, O Mahali, form is sukha, falls and descends on sukha. Here, sukha means object of pleasure. Merit, O bhikkhus, is a synonym for sukha. Here, sukha means cause of pleasure. Not easy is it, O bhikkhus, to attain to heavenly sukha by description. They know not sukha who do not see nandana. Here, sukha means conditioning state of pleasure. These states constitute a sukha life in this very world. Here, sukha means freedom from troubles. Nibbana is supreme sukha. Here, sukha means nibbana. From these quotations, the reader can understand in what different senses the term sukha is used in the texts. In this particular connection, The term sukha is used in the sense of pleasurable feeling. Nibbana is stated to be supreme bliss, or sukha. This does not mean that there is a pleasurable feeling in nibbana, although the term sukha is used. Nibbana is a bliss of relief. The release from suffering itself is nibbanic bliss. The term dukkha means painful feeling, basis of pain, object of pain, cause of pain, conditioning state of pain, etc. In the expression by eliminating dukkha, dukkha means painful feeling. In the expression bhikkhu, too is dukkha. Here dukkha means basis of pain. In the expression since, O Mahali, form is dukkha, falls and descends on dukkha. Here dukkha means object of dukkha. Accumulation of evil is dukkha. Here dukkha means cause of pain. It is not easy, O bhikkhus, to realize the pain of woeful states by description. Here dukkha means conditioning states of pain. In this particular connection, the term dukkha is used in the sense of painful feeling.
Birth is suffering. Decay is suffering. Disease is suffering. Death is suffering. Association with the unpleasant is suffering. Separation from the beloved is suffering. When one does not obtain what one desires, there is suffering. In brief, the 5 aggregates are suffering. All these are the causes of dukkha. When the Buddha addresses devas and men, he speaks of 8 kinds of dukkha. When he addresses only men, he speaks of 12. Instead of vyadi, disease, he says soka, grief, parideva, lamentation, dukkha, pain, domanassa, displeasure, upayasa, despair, are suffering. All these 5 are included in vyadi, which embraces both physical and mental disharmony. Soka, domanassa, and upayasa are mental, while dukkha and parideva are physical. Practically, there is no marked difference between the 2 formulas. Adukkam asukham is that which is neither pain nor happiness. It is a neutral feeling. This corresponds to both stolid indifference and stoic indifference. The Pali term upekkha, which has a wider connotation, is more frequently used to denote this kind of neutral feeling. In an amoral type of consciousness, upekkha assumes the role of stolid indifference because it is prompted by ignorance. In an ahetuka resultant consciousness, such as a sense impression, upekkha means simple neutral feeling which has no ethical value. Adukkam asukham strictly applies in this connection. Upekkha latent in a kama, vachara, sobhana, citta, beautiful types of consciousness pertaining to the sense sphere, may be any of the following states: simple indifference, not stolid, because there is no ignorance; simple neutral feeling; disinterestedness; unbiased feeling; stoic indifference; and perfect equanimity. Upekkha in the jhana consciousness is perfect equanimity born of concentration. It is both ethical and intellectual. According to a still wider classification, Vedana is 5-fold, namely 1. Sukha, physical happiness; 2. Somanassa, mental pleasure; 3. Dukkha, physical pain; 4. Domanassa, mental pleasure; 5. Upekkha, indifference, equanimity, feeling. All feelings, from an ultimate standpoint, are mental because Vedana is a cetasika. But a differentiation has been made with regard to sukha and dukkha. Of all the 89 types of consciousness, only 2 are associated with either sukha or dukkha.
One is the body consciousness associated with happiness, and the other is the body consciousness associated with pain. Both these are the resultant types of consciousness, effects of good and evil karma. A soft touch, for instance, yields happiness. A pinprick, on the contrary, yields pain. In these cases, one experiences the aforesaid two types of consciousness, respectively. Now a question arises. Why only the body consciousness is associated with happiness and pain? Why not the other sense impressions? Mr. Aung provides an answer in his introductory essay to the compendium. Quote, "The sense of touch alone is accompanied by the positive hedonic elements of pain and pleasure. The other four senses are accompanied by hedonic indifference. This exceptional distinction is assigned to the sense of touch because the impact between the sentient surface, pasada rupa, and the respective objects of other senses, both sets of which are secondary qualities of body, is not strong enough to produce physical pain or pleasure. But in the case of touch, there is contact with one or other or all three primary qualities, panhavi, tejo, and vayo, extension, heat, and motion. Apo, cohesion, is excluded, being intangible, forcibly and directly strike against the essentials of the body. Consequently, there is either pain or happiness. In the case of seeing, hearing, smelling, and tasting, there is a bare impact. The consequent feeling is neither pain nor happiness. Although these sense impressions may be sukha, dukkha, or upekkha, the jhana thought processes conditioned thereby may not necessarily be associated with a similar feeling. For instance, the Buddha experienced a body consciousness associated with pain when a rock splinter struck his foot, but his jhana thought process conditioned thereby would not necessarily be associated with displeasure. Unaffected by the pain, he would have experienced perfect equanimity. The immanent feeling in the stream of consciousness would have been upekkha. Similarly, at the sight of the Buddha, a right understanding person would automatically experience an eye consciousness associated with indifference, upekkha sahagata chakku vijnana. But his jhana thought would be moral. The innate feeling would be pleasure, somanassa. This intricate point should be clearly understood. Somanassa and domanassa are purely mental. These five kinds of feeling could be reduced to three, the 3 to 2, and the 2 to 1, as follows. I. Sukha plus somanassa, upekkha, dukkha plus domanassa. 2. Sukha, upekkha, dukkha. 3. Sukha, dukkha. 4. Dukkha. Upekkha is merged in sukha, and sukha is ultimately merged in dukkha. 4. Sukha, physical happiness, should be differentiated from somanassa, mental pleasure. So should dukkha, physical pain, be differentiated from domanassa, mental displeasure. There is only one consciousness accompanied by sukha. Similarly, there is only one accompanied by dukkha. Both of them are the effects of good and bad actions, respectively. When the Buddha, for instance, was injured by Devadatta Thera, he experienced a body consciousness accompanied by pain. This was the result of a past evil action of his. When we sit on a comfortable seat, we experience a body consciousness accompanied by happiness. This is the result of a past good action. All forms of physical pain and happiness are the inevitable results of our own karma. Readers will note that pleasurable types of consciousness exceed all others. As such, during a lifetime, a person experiences more happy moments than painful ones. This does not contradict the statement that life is sorrow, dukkha. Here, dukkha is not used in the sense of painful feeling, but in the sense of oppression or impeding, pidana. A careful reading of the description of dukkha given in the Dhammacakka Sutta will make the matter clear.
7. There is displeasure only in the two types of consciousness connected with paniha or aversion. We experience displeasure when we get angry. Is there aversion where there is displeasure? Yes, in a gross or subtle form. See Chapter 1, page 32, note 10. 8. That is, 6 akusalas, 14 ahetukas, 12 sobanas, 3 rupa jhanas, 12 arupa jhanas, 8 lokutaras, equal 55.
अहेतुकण्हारस्येक हेतुका द्वे द्वावी सति द्विहेतुका मता सत्ता चत्ताणे सति हेतुकाः. In the summary of roots, there are 6, namely attachment, hatred, or ignorance or delusion, non-attachment or generosity, non-anger or goodwill, and wisdom. Therein 18 types of consciousness are without roots, namely 5-door apprehending, the twice five-fold sense impressions, receiving, investigating, determining, and smiling. All the remaining 71 types of consciousness are with roots. Of them, the 2 types of consciousness associated with ignorance have only one root. The remaining 10 immoral types and the 12th sense-sphere beautiful types of consciousness dissociated with wisdom, thus totaling 22, are with 2 roots. The 12 sense-sphere beautiful types of consciousness associated with wisdom and the 35 sublime and supramundane types of consciousness totaling 47 are with 3 roots. Attachment, hatred, and ignorance are the 3 immoral roots. Similarly, non-attachment, goodwill, and wisdom are moral and indeterminate. It should be understood that 18 are without roots, 2 with 1 root, 22 with 2 roots, and 47 with 3 roots. Notes. See Chapter 1, Note 9. For a detailed exposition of Hetu, see Dhamma Sangani Hetu Gochakam, sections 1053 to 1083. Buddhist Psychology, pages 274 to 287. According to the Atta Salani, there are 4 kinds of Hetu. I. Hetu, the root cause or the root condition. There are 3 moral Hetus, 3 immoral Hetus, and 3 amoral Hetus. Here, Hetu is used in the sense of root. 2. Pachaya Hetu, causal condition or instrumental cause. The 4 great essentials, O bhikkhus, are the causes, Hetu, the conditions, Pachaya, for the manifestation of form group, Rupakandha. Here, Hetu is used in the sense of causal relation, Pachaya Hetu. There is a subtle distinction between Hetu and Pachaya. The former signifies root, Mula. The latter an aiding factor, Upakaraka Dhamma. Hetu is compared to the roots of a tree and Pachaya to manure, water and soil that aid its growth.
This distinction should be clearly understood. It should also be noted that at times both Hetu and Pachaya are used as synonymous terms. It is also noted that at times both Hetu and Pachaya are used as synonymous terms. Uttama Hetu, chief cause or condition. A desirable object acts as the chief cause, uttama, in producing a good result and an undesirable one in producing a bad result. Here, it means the chief cause. Sadharana Hetu, the common cause or condition. Ignorance is the cause, Hetu, condition, Pachaya, of volitional activities, sankhara. Here, Hetu is used as the general cause. Just as the essence of both earth and water is the common cause of both sweetness and bitterness, even so ignorance is the common cause of volitional activities. Though hetu assumes different shades of meaning in the text, in this particular instance, it is used in the specific sense of root. 10. All the ahetuka chittas are devoid of all roots, hence they are neither moral nor immoral. They are regarded as unmoral. 7 of them are the resultants of immoral actions, 8 of moral actions, and 3 are merely functionals. See Chapter 1, pages 62 to 67. 11. That is 89 minus 18 equals 71. 12. Namely, the consciousness accompanied by doubt, vichikiccha, and the other accompanied by restlessness, udacha. These are the only 2 types of consciousness that have one root, which is delusion. Being potentially weak, restlessness is powerless in determining a future birth. Both doubt and restlessness are regarded as 2 fetters, the first of which is eradicated by the first path of sainthood, and the second by the 4th path of sainthood. 13. The first 8 immoral types of consciousness are connected with lobha, attachment, and moha, delusion, and the second 2 with dosa, aversion, and moha, delusion. It should be noted that moha is common to all immoral thoughts. 14. Those 12 kamavachara sobhana chittas mentioned in the first chapter, disassociated with jnana, or wisdom, are conditioned by the 2 roots alobha, non-attachment, and adosa, goodwill or loving kindness. These 2 roots coexist in moral thoughts. 15. The remaining 12 kamavachara sobhana chittas, accompanied by wisdom, are conditioned by all 3 moral roots. Similarly, the 15 types of rupavachara consciousness, 12 types of arupavachara consciousness, and 8 types of lokuttara consciousness, 15 plus 12 plus 8 equals 35, are always associated with the 3 moral roots. It should not be understood that evil thoughts conditioned by immoral roots do not arise in the rupaloka and the arupaloka. The point here stressed is that no immoral roots are found in the higher types of consciousness. Unlike the other kusala chittas, the lokuttara chittas, though associated with the 3 moral roots, lack procreative power. 16. Abhyakata literally means that which is not manifested. The term is applied to both vipaka, resultants, and kriya, functionals. Vipaka is a result in itself and is not productive of another result. Kriya does not produce any effect. Rupa, material form, is also regarded as an abhyakata because it does not reproduce any resultant consciousness in itself. Ahetuka, rootless types of consciousness, equal 18. Ekahetuka, types of consciousness with 1 root, equal 2. Dvihetuka, 2 roots, 10 immoral, 12 moral. Dihetuka, 3 roots, 12 beautiful, 27 sublime, and 8 supramundane, thus totaling 89 distinctions, i.e., kicha sangaho kichani nama.
Mahavipakani ashtha panisandhi bhavanga chuti tadarammanavasena chatukichani mahagatta vipakani nava panisandhi bhavanga chutivasena tikichani सोमनस्य सहगतं संतीर्णं तदालंबणवसेन दुकिच्चम तथा वोत्थप्पणं च वोत्थप्पनावज्जनवसेन शेषाणि पणसब्बाणि अपि जवन मनोधातुत्तिक पंचविज्ञानानि यथासंभवम् एककच्छाणि पणिसन्ध्यादयो नाम किच्चभेदेन 14 दशधान्यानभेदेन चित्तुत्पादाः प्रकाशिता अट्ठसंहिति तथा द्वे च नवण्णट्ठद्वे यथा कमम् एकद्विति चतुःपञ्च किच्चान्यट्ठानानि निद्दिसे. In the summary of functions, there are 14 kinds, namely 1. Relinking, 2. Life continuum, 3. Apprehending, 4. Seeing, 5. Hearing, 6. Smelling, 7. Tasting, 8. Contacting, 9. Receiving, 10.
investigating, 11, determining, 12, javana, 13, retention, and 14, disease. Their classification should be understood as tenfold, namely 1, relinking, 2, life continuum, 3, apprehending, 4, fivefold sense impressions, and so forth. Of them, 19 types of consciousness perform the functions of relinking, life continuum, and disease. They are 1, 2 types of investigating consciousness accompanied by indifference, 2, 8 great resultants, and 3, 9 form sphere and formless sphere resultants. 2 plus 8 plus 9 is equal to 19. 2 perform the function of apprehending. Similarly, 2 perform the functions of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, contacting, and receiving. 3 perform the function of investigating. The mind or consciousness performs the function of determining in the 5 sense door thought process. With the exception of 2 apprehending types of consciousness, the 55 types of immoral, moral, and functional consciousness perform the function of javana. The 8 great resultants and the 3 types of investigating consciousness, totaling 11, perform the function of retention. Of them, the 2 types of investigating consciousness accompanied by indifference perform 5 functions such as relinking, life continuum, disease, and investigating.
Mahavipakani ashtha panisandhi bhavanga chuti tadarammanavasena chatukichani mahagatta vipakani nava panisandhi bhavanga chutivasena tikichani somanasya sahagatang santiranang tadalambanavasena dukicham tatha vothappanancha vothappanavajjanavasena Seshani pana sabbani api javana mano dhatuttika panchavinyānāni yathasambhavam ekakachchāni. Panisandhyādayo nama kiccha bhedena chauddasa dasadhānyāna bhedena chittutpādah pakashita aṭṭha sanhiti tathadvecha navannatthadve yatha kamam ekadviti chatuh pancha kiccānyatthānāni niddise. In the summary of functions, there are 14 kinds, namely 1, relinking, 2, life continuum, 3, apprehending, 4, seeing, 5, hearing, 6, smelling, 7, tasting, 8, contacting, 9, receiving, 10, investigating, 11, determining, 12, javana, 13, retention, and 14, disease. Their classification should be understood as tenfold, namely 1, relinking, 2, life continuum, 3, apprehending, 4, fivefold sense impressions, and so forth. Of them, 19 types of consciousness perform the functions of relinking, life continuum, and disease. They are 1, 2 types of investigating consciousness accompanied by indifference, 2, 8 great resultants, and 3, 9 form sphere and formless sphere resultants. 2 plus 8 plus 9 is equal to 19. 2 perform the function of apprehending. Similarly, 2 perform the functions of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, contacting, and receiving. 3 perform the function of investigating. The mind or consciousness performs the function of determining in the 5 sense door thought process. With the exception of 2 apprehending types of consciousness, the 55 types of immoral, moral, and functional consciousness perform the function of javana. The 8 great resultants and the 3 types of investigating consciousness, totaling 11, perform the function of retention. Of them, the 2 types of investigating consciousness accompanied by indifference perform 5 functions such as relinking, life continuum, disease, and investigating.
The 8 great resultants perform 4 functions such as relinking, life continuum, decease, and retention. The 9 sublime resultants perform 3 functions such as relinking, life continuum, and decease. The investigating consciousness, accompanied by pleasure, perform 2 functions such as investigating and retention. Similarly, The determining consciousness, 41, perform two functions, such as determining and apprehending. All the remaining types of consciousness, jhavana, of 3 mind elements, 42, and 5 sense impressions, perform only one function as they arise. Section 7. The types of consciousness are declared to be 14 according to functions such as relinking and so forth, and 10 according to classification. It is stated that those that perform one function are 68, 2 functions 2, 3 functions 9, 4 functions 8, and 5 functions 2, respectively. Notes. 17. Kicha, or function. In the first chapter, consciousness was classified chiefly according to the nature, or jati, and planes or states, or bhumi. In this section, the different functions of all the 89 types of consciousness are explained in detail. Each consciousness performs a particular function. Some types of consciousness perform several functions under different circumstances in various capacities. There are 14 specific functions performed by them all. 18. Panisandhi literally means relinking. The type of consciousness one experiences at the moment of conception is termed panisandhi citta. It is so called because it links the past with the present. This panisandhi citta, also termed rebirth consciousness, is conditioned by the powerful thought one experiences at the dying moment and is regarded as the source of the present life stream. In the course of one particular life, there is only one panisandhi citta. The mental contents of bhavanga, which later arises an infinite number of times during one's lifetime, and chuti, which arises only once at the final moment of death, are identical with those of panisandhi. 19. Bhavanga. Bhava plus anga equals factor of life, or indispensable cause or condition of existence. One experiences only one thought moment at any particular time. No 2 thought moments coexist. Each thought moment hangs on to some kind of object. No consciousness arises without an object, either mental or physical. When a person is fast asleep and is in a dreamless state, he experiences a kind of consciousness which is more or less passive than active. It is similar to the consciousness one experiences at the initial moment of conception and at the final moment of death. This type of consciousness is in Abhidhamma termed bhavanga. Like any other consciousness, it also consists of 3 aspects: genesis, or upada, static, or niti, and cessation, or bhanga. Arising and perishing every moment, it flows on like a stream, not remaining the same for 2 consecutive moments. When an object enters this stream through the sense doors, the bhavanga consciousness is arrested and another type of consciousness appropriate to the object arises. Not only in a dreamless state, but also in our waking state, we experience bhavanga thought moments more than any other types of consciousness. Hence, bhavanga becomes an indispensable condition of life. Mrs. Rhys Davids and Mr. Ung compare bhavanga to Leibniz's state of obscure perception, not amounting to consciousness, in dreamless sleep. One cannot agree, because bhavanga is a type of consciousness. There is no obscure perception here. Some identify bhavanga with subconsciousness. According to the Dictionary of Philosophy, subconsciousness is a compartment of the mind alleged by certain psychologists and philosophers to exist below the threshold of consciousness. In the opinion of Western philosophers, subconsciousness and consciousness coexist. According to Abhidhamma, no 2 types of consciousness coexist, nor is bhavanga a subplane. The compendium further states that bhavanga denotes a functional state or moment of subconsciousness.
As such, it is the subconscious state of mind, below the threshold of consciousness, by which we conceive continuous subjective existence as possible. Thus, it corresponds to F.W. Meyer's subliminal consciousness. The Dictionary of Philosophy explains subliminal, sub under plus limen, the threshold, as allegedly unconscious mental processes, especially sensations which lie below the threshold of consciousness. Strictly speaking, it does not correspond to subliminal consciousness either. There does not seem to be any place for bhavanga in Western psychology. Bhavanga is so called because it is an essential condition for continued subjective existence. Whenever the mind does not receive a fresh external object, one experiences a bhavanga consciousness. Immediately after a thought process too, there is a bhavanga consciousness. Hence it is called vithimutta, process freed. Sometimes it acts as a buffer between two thought processes. Life continuum has been suggested as the closest English equivalent. According to the Vibhavini Tika, bhavanga arises between 1. Patisandhi and avajjana, 2. Javan and avajjana, 3. Tadarammana and avajjana, 4. Vothappana and avajjana, and sometimes between 5. Javan and chuti, 6. Tadarammana and chuti. 20. A. Avajjana, opening or turning towards. When an object enters the bhavanga stream of consciousness, the thought moment that immediately follows is called bhavanga chalana, bhavanga vibration. Subsequently, another thought moment arises and is called the bhavanga upachcheda, arresting bhavanga. Owing to the rapidity of the flow of bhavanga, an external object does not immediately give rise to a thought process. The original bhavanga thought moment perishes. Then the flow is checked. Before the actual transition of the bhavanga, it vibrates for one moment. When the bhavanga is arrested, a thought moment arises adverting the consciousness towards the object. If it is a physical object, the thought moment is termed five-door cognition, panchadvana vajjana. In the case of a mental object, it is termed manadvana vajjana. In the sense-door thought process, after the avajjana moment, arises one of the 5 sense impressions. See Chapter 1, Note number 27. Avajjana arises between bhavanga and panchavinyana, vinjana, sense impressions, and bhavanga and javana. 22. Panchavinyana arises between 5-door cognition and receiving consciousness. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and contacting are collectively termed panchavinyana. 23. Santirana arises between receiving consciousness and investigating consciousness. 24. Vothappana. V plus ava plus root tha, to stand, to fix, to rest, literally thorough settling down. This is at this moment that the nature of the object is fully determined. This is the gateway to a moral or immoral thought process. Discrimination rightly or wrongly employed at this stage determines the thought process either for good or for evil. If, for instance, one meets an enemy, a thought of hatred will arise almost automatically. A wise and forbearing person might, on the contrary, harbor a thought of love towards him. This is the reason why the Buddha has stated in the Dhammapada, by self is evil done, by self is one defiled, by self is no evil done, by self is one purified.
True indeed that circumstances, habitual tendencies, environment, etc. condition our thoughts. Then the free will is subordinated to the mechanistic course of events. There is also the possibility to overcome those external forces and, exercising one's own free will, generate either good or bad thoughts. A foreign element may be instrumental, but we ourselves are directly responsible for our own actions. Of the normal 7 jhavana thought moments, the first is the weakest potentially, as it lacks any previous sustaining force. The comic effect of this thought moment may operate in this present life itself. It is called the dinya dhamma vedaniya kama. If it does not operate, it becomes ineffective. The last is the second weakest, because the sustaining power is being spent. Its comic effect may operate in the immediately subsequent life, upapajaya vedaniya. If it does not operate, it also becomes ineffective. The effects of the remaining 5 may operate at any time till one attains parinibbana, aparapariya vedaniya. It should be understood that moral and immoral javanas, kusala akusala, refer to the active side of life, kama bhava. They condition the future existence, upapati bhava. Apart from them, there are the pala and kriya javanas. In the kriya javanas, which are experienced only by Buddhas and Arahants, the respective chaitanas lack kama creative power. Though with death the physical body disintegrates and the flow of consciousness temporarily ceases, yet the life stream is not annihilated, as the kamic force that propels it remains. Death is only a prelude to birth. Truti occurs between either javana and panishandi, tadaramana and panyashandi, and bhavanga and panyashandi. 28. Tana, literally place, station, or occasion. Though there are 14 functions, yet, according to the functioning place or occasion, they are 10-fold. The pancha vijana, or the 5 sense impressions, are collectively treated as one, since their functions are identical. 29. One is akusala, immoral, and the other is kusala, moral. Rebirth in the animal kingdom and in Peto and Asura realms takes place with upekha sahagata santirana, akusala vipaka. Bhavanga and Shuti of that particular life are identical with this pantishandi chitta. Those human beings who are congenitally blind, deaf, dumb, etc., have for their pantishandi chitta the kusala vipaka upekha sahagata santirana. Though deformity is due to an evil kama, yet the birth as a human being is due to a good kama. 30. Namely, the kamavachara kusala vipaka. All human beings who are not congenitally deformed are born with one of these as their pantishandi chitta. All these 10 pertain to the kamaloka. 31. Namely, the 5 rupavachara vipaka and the 4 arupavachara vipaka. Lokuttara, or supramundane, palas are not taken into consideration because they do not produce any rebirth. 19 classes of consciousness, therefore, perform the triple functions of pantishandi, bhavanga, and chuti. 32. Namely, the manodwara vajana and the panchadwara vajana, 2 of the 18 ahetuka chittas. The former occurs when the mind perceives a mental object, and the latter when it perceives a physical object. 33. Namely, the 10 types of moral and immoral resultant sense impressions, kusala, akusala, vipaka, panchavinjana. 34. Namely, the 2 types of receiving consciousness accompanied by indifference mentioned among the ahetukas. 35. Namely, the 2 accompanied by indifference and 1 accompanied by pleasure. It is the first 2 that function as pantishandi, bhavanga, and chuti. It should not be understood that at the moment of rebirth there is any investigation. One consciousness performs only one function at a particular time. This class of consciousness only serves as a rebirth consciousness, connecting the past and present births. The investigating consciousness, accompanied by pleasure, occurs as a talalambana when the object presented to the consciousness is desirable. 36. There is no special consciousness known as votapana. It is the manodwara vajana that serves this function in the 5-door thought process. 37. Namely, the manodwara vajana and the panchadwara vajana, 2 of the ahetuka kiriya chittas. As they do not enjoy the taste of the object, they do not perform the function of jhavana. The remaining kiriya citta, smiling consciousness, performs the function of jhavana. 38. Namely, 12 immoral, plus 8 plus 5 plus 4 plus 4, 21 morals, plus 4 lokuttara phalas, fruits, plus 1 plus 8 plus 5 plus 4, 18 functionals, equals 55. The term used is not vipaka, but phala. The vipakas, resultants of kama, rupa, and arupa lokas, are not regarded as jhavanas. The supramundane paths and fruits which occur in the jhavana process are regarded as jhavanas, though they exist only for a moment. 39. These 11 are vipaka cittas, resultants. When they perform the function of retention, tadalambana, there is no investigating function. The investigating consciousness, accompanied by pleasure, performs the dual functions of investigating and retention. In their respective planes, mano dvara vajjana. Mano dhatu is applied to the two classes of receiving consciousness, sampannichana, and five-door cognition, pancha dvara vajjana. All the remaining classes of consciousness, excluding the 10 sense impressions, dvipancha vijnana, are termed mano vijnana dhatu. The fourth part, dwara sangaho. Part 8. Dwara sangahe, dwarani nama chakku dwaram, sota dwaram, ghana dwaram, jivha dwaram, kaya dwaram, mano dwaranchati, shadbidhani bhavanti. Tata chakumeva chakudwaram, tata sotadayo sotadwaradini, manodwaram pana bhavangam pauchati. Tata panchadwara vajjana chakku vijnana sampannichana santirana votapana kama vachara javana tadalambana vasena cha chatalisa chittani chakudware yatarahang upajjanti. Tata panchadwara vajjana sota vijnanadi vasena sota dwaradi supi cha chatalisa veva bhavanti. Sabatapi panchadware chatupanya sa chittam kama vacharana evati veditabani. Manodware pana, manodwara vajjana, pancha panyasa javana tadalambana vasena, satta satiti chittani bhavanti. Ekuna visati pati sandhi bhavanga chuti vasena dwara vimutani. Te supana, dvipancha vijnanani cheva, mahagata lokutarajavanani chati, chatingsa yataraham ekadwarika chittani nama. Mano dhatuttikam pana, panchadwarikam, sukha santirana, votapana, kama vachara javanane, shadwarika chittani. Upeka sahagata, santirana, mahavipaka, shadwarikane cheva, dwara vimutane cha. Mahagata vipaka, dwara vimutane eva. Part 9. Eka dwarika chittane, pancha dwarika cha, shadwarika vimutane cha sabata, chatingsati tatatini, eka tingsati yatakamam, dasadha navadha chati, panchadha paridipaye. The fourth part, Summary of Doors. Part 8. In the Summary of Doors, 43, there are 6 kinds, namely eye door, 44, ear door, nose door, tongue door, body door, and mind door, 45. Therein the eye itself is the eye door, and so for the ear door and others. But bhavanga is called the mind door. Of them, 46 types of consciousness arise accordingly, 47, in the eye door, 5, door apprehending, A, pancha dvara vajana, B, eye consciousness, C, receiving, D, investigating, E, determining, F, sense sphere jhana, G, retention. Likewise, in the ear door and others, 46 types of consciousness arise, such as 5-door apprehending, ear consciousness, and so forth. It should be understood that in every way in the 5 doors there are 54 types of kamavachara consciousness, 48. In the mind door, 67 types of consciousness arise, such as mind door apprehending, 55 jhanas, and retention, 49. 19 types of consciousness, such as relinking, bhavanga, and decease, are without doors, 51. Of those that arise through doors, 36 types of consciousness, 52, such as twice 5-fold sense impressions, and the sublime and supramundane jhanas, 53, are with one door accordingly. The 3 mind elements, 54, arise through 5 doors. Pleasurable investigation, 55, determining, 56, and the kama sphere jhanas arise through 6 doors. Investigation, accompanied by indifference and the great resultants, arise either through the 6 doors or without a door, 57. The sublime resultants do arise without a door, 58. Part 9. 36 types of consciousness, 59, arise through 1 door, 3 through 5, 31 through 6, 10 through 6 without a door, 9 wholly free from a door, respectively. In 5 ways they are shown. Notes. 43. Dwara, or door, derived from du, to, and ar, to enter, is that which serves both as an entrance and an exit. The eye, ear, and other organs of sense act as doors for objects to enter. See Compendium of Philosophy, page 85, N4. 44. By Chakku Dwara, or eye door, is meant the sensory surface of the eye. The other doors should be understood similarly. 45. Mano Dwara, mind door. It was explained earlier that when an object enters the mind, the bhavanga consciousness first vibrates for a moment and is then arrested. Subsequently, avajana, or apprehending thought moment, arises. In the case of a physical object, it is one of the 5 sense impressions. In the case of a mental object, it is the manodwara vajana, mind door consciousness. The bhavanga upachara, or bhavanga arrest, thought moment, that immediately precedes the mind door apprehending consciousness is known as the mind door, manodwara. Abhidhamma Vatara states, Savajanang bhavangantu manodwaranti vuchati. The bhavanga with the avajana is known as mind door. 46. The commentary sums up 46 as follows. A. 1. B. 2. Akusala and kusala vipaka chakku vinjana. C. 2. Akusala and kusala vipaka sampachichana. D. 3. Akusala vipaka equals 1. Kusala vipaka santirana equals 2. E. 1. F. 29. Akusala equals 12 plus kusala equals 8 plus ahetuka kriya hasitupara equals 1 plus sobana kriya equals 8. G. 8. Sobana vipaka, the other 3 being included in santirana. 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 3 plus 1 plus 29 plus 8 equals 46. 46. 46 types of consciousness arise through the eye door with material form as the object, rupalambhanam. An equal number arises in the remaining 5 physical doors with their respective objects. 47. According to yathanahung, that is, according as the object is desirable or not, as attentiveness is right or wrong, as passion-freed individuals or not, vipavinitika. Mr. Ung says, Lady Sayadaw explains the same by, according to the object, the plane of existence, the subject, attention, etc. 48. All types of kamavachara consciousness arise through these 5 doors. 49. Namely 12 akusalas plus 1 ahetuka kriya plus 16 sobana kusala and kriya plus 10 rupavachara kusala and kriya plus 8 arupavachara kusala and kriya plus 8 lokutara magga and pala. 12 plus 1 plus 16 plus 10 plus 8 plus 8 equals 55. 50. Namely 3 santiranas and 8 sobana vipaka. 51. Dwara vimutta, door freed. Vipavinitika explains that they are so called because they do not arise in any of the sense doors such as I, etc. I, Bhavanga itself is the mind door, and I, they exist without receiving any new external object pertaining to the present life. The first reason applies to kuti and patisandhi, the second to bhavangopachada, and the third to all bhavangas and kuti. It was stated earlier that patisandhi, bhavanga, and kuti of a particular life are similar because their objects and their coadjuncts are identical, although their functions differ. At the moment of death, a thought process that conditions the future existence occurs. The object of this thought process may be a karma, action, which one has performed in the course of one's life. One recollects the deed as if being renewed. Strictly speaking, it is a recurring of the consciousness which one has experienced while performing the action. Or it may be any symbol, karma nimitta, which was conspicuous during the performance of the action. It may also be characteristic symbol of the place in which one is bound to be reborn, gati nimitta. Taking one of these 3 as the object, the rebirth consciousness takes place in the future existence. The object of the bhavanga and kuti of that particular existence is similar to that of the patisandhi. Hence, it was stated above that they do not take any new external object. 52. They arise in their respective doors, such as eye, ear, etc. 53. All 26 sublime and supramundane jhavanas arise through the mind door. 54. The 2 sampachichanas and panchadwaravajana arise only through the 5 physical sense doors. Readers should note that at times all these 3 types
of consciousness are collectively termed manodhatuttika, 3 mind elements. 55. Pleasurable investigation arises through the 5 physical doors when the object presented is desirable. It occurs through the mind door as a tadalambana. 56. This is the manodvara vajana, which functions purely as a mind door apprehending consciousness and as a determining consciousness in a thought process which arises through any of the 5 physical doors. 57. When they function as patisandhi, bhavanga, and chuti, they are door-freed. 58.
The 9 Rupavachara and Arupavachara Vipaka Chittas arise as Patisanhe, Bhavanga, and Chuti in their respective planes. Hence, they are door-freed. 59. They are Dvi Pancha Vijnana, sense impression, 10. Rupavachara Kusala and Kriya, 10. Arupavachara Kusala and Kriya, 8. And Lokuttara Magga and Phala, 8. They total at 36. Section 10. In the summary of objects, there are 6 kinds, namely, visible object, audible object, odorous object, sapid object, tangible object, and cognizable object. Therein, form itself is visible object. Likewise, sound and so forth are the audible objects, etc. Pana, pasada, sukumara rupa, chitta, chetasika, nibbana, panyati, vaseva, chada sangahanti. In the Chakudvarika Chittanam, sabbe sampi, rupa meva, aramanam, tancha pachupa nammeva, tata shotabva reka chittadinam pi, sadadini, tanicha pachupannani eva. Mano dwarika chittanam pana chabidham pi pachupannamatikam anagatam cha kalavimuttam cha yata harham harambanam hoti. Dwara vimutta nancha pana pati sanji bhavanga chuti sankattanam chabidhampi yata sambhavam ye bhuyena bhavantare chadvargahitam pachupannam ta titam panyati bhutam va kammam kamma nimittam gati nimittam sammatam alambanam hoti. Tesu chakku vijnana dini yatakamam rupa ike kalambanani eva. Mano dhatutikam pana rupa di panchalambanam. Seshani kamava chara vipakani cha sachitancha ti sabbatapi kamava chara lambananeva. Akusalani cheva jana vipayutta javanani ti lokuttara vajjita sabbalambanani. Jnana sampayutta kamavachara kusalani cheva panjajana sanchatam abhijana kusalanchati arahattamagga palawa jita sabbalambanani. Arupesu dutiya chaturtani mahaghata lambanani. Seshani mahaghata chittani pana sabepi panyata lambanani. Lokuttara chittani nibbanani ti. Section 11. Pancha vimsati paritam mi cha chittane mahaghate ekavisati vohare atta nibbana gochare, visanutaram muttam, agamaga palajute, pancha sabbata cheti satadha tatra sangaho. Section 10. In the summary of objects, there are 6 kinds, namely, visible object, audible object, odorous object, sapid object, tangible object, and cognizable object. Therein, form itself is visible object. Likewise, sound and so forth are the audible objects, etc. Object is 6-fold. Sensitive, parts of organs, 67. Subtle, matter, 68. Consciousness, 69. Mental states, 70. Nibbana, 71. And concepts, 72. To all types of eye-door consciousness, visible form itself is the object. That, too, pertains only to the present, 73. Likewise, sounds and so forth of the ear-door consciousness and so forth also pertain to the present, 74. But the 6 kinds of objects of the mind-door consciousness are accordingly present, past, future, and independent of time. To the door-freed, such as relinking, bhavanga, and decease, any of the aforesaid 6 becomes objects as they arise. They are grasped mostly through the 6 doors, pertaining to the immediately preceding life, as past or present object, or as concepts. They are technically known as kama, a symbol of kama, or a symbol of the state of rebirth. 92. Of them, eye consciousness and so forth have respectively form and so forth as their single object, but the 3 mind elements have 5 objects such as form and so forth. The remaining sense sphere resultants and the smiling consciousness have wholly sense sphere objects. Note: Mr. Ong translates this passage as follows. Further, the objects of those door-freed classes of consciousness, which are called rebirth, life continuum, and redecease cognitions, are also of 6 kinds according to circumstances. They have usually been grasped as an object in the immediately preceding existence by way of the 6 doors. They are objects of things either present or past, or are concepts, and they are technically known as kama, a symbol of kama, or a symbol of the state of rebirth. Compendium of Philosophy, page 120. The immorals and the javanas, disassociated with knowledge, have all objects except the supramundane objects, 78. The sense sphere morals and the superintellect consciousness, known as the 5th jhana, have all objects except the path and fruit of arahantship. The sense sphere functionals associated with knowledge, superintellect functional consciousness, and the determining consciousness have in all cases all kinds of objects, 82. Amongst the arupa consciousness, the 2nd and 4th have sublime objects. All the remaining sublime types of consciousness have concepts as objects. The supramundane types of consciousness have nibbana as their object. Section 11. 25 of the types of consciousness are connected with lower objects, 6 with the sublime, 21 with concepts, 8 with nibbana. 20 are connected with all objects except the supramundane objects. 5 in all except with the highest path and fruit, and 6 with all. 7-fold is their grouping. Notes: 60. Aramanam or alambanam. Aramanam is derived from a plus root ram, to attach, to adhere, to delight. Alambanam is derived from a plus root lamb, to hang upon. That on which the subject hangs, or adheres to, or delights in is aramanam, or alambanam. It means an object. According to Abhidhamma, there are 6 kinds of objects which may be classified as physical and mental. Each sense has its corresponding object. 61. Rupa is derived from root, rup, to change, to perish. In its generic sense, it means that which changes its color, owing to cold, heat, etc. Situnadi vesana, vanavikaram apajati iti rupam. Abhidhamma enumerates 28 kinds of rupa, which will be descriptively dealt with in a special chapter. Here, the term is used in its specific sense of object of sight. The Vibhavini Tika states, Rupam is that which manifests itself by assuming a difference in color, that which expresses the state of having penetrated into the heart. Vana vikaram apajamanam rupayati hadayang gatabhavam pakaseti. Rupam is the abode, range, field, or sphere of color. Vanayatanam. It is the embodiment of color. It should be understood that according to Abhidhamma, rupa springs from 4 sources, namely kama, mind, seasonal phenomena, utu, and food, ahara. 62. Sada, or sound, arises from the friction of elements of extension, bathevi batu.
There are 4 material elements, bhuta rupa, namely the element of extension, panchavi, the element of cohesion, apo, the element of heat, tejo, and the element of motion, vayo. These are the fundamental units of matter. They are always interdependent and interrelated. One element may preponderate over the other, as for example, the element of extension predominates in earth, the element of cohesion in water, the element of heat in fire, and the element of motion in air. When an element of extension collides with a similar element, there arises sound. It springs from both mind, citta, and seasonal phenomena, utu. Sounds are either articulate, vyakta, or inarticulate, avyakta. 63. Gandha, odor, is derived from root gand, to express, sochane. It springs from all the 4 sources. 64. Rasa, taste, is diffused in all the elements. Only the sapidity that exists in them is regarded as a rasa. 65. Ponyaba ramanam, tangible object. It is not mere contact. With the exception of the element of cohesion, the remaining 3 elements are regarded as tangible because the former cannot be felt by the body. When these 3 elements, which constitute a tangible object, collide with the sensory surface of the body, there arises either pain or pleasure, according to the desirability or undesirability of the object. In the case of other objects, there results only upekha, neutral feeling. 66. Dhamma ramanam includes all objects of consciousness. Dhamma embraces both mental and physical phenomena. 67. The sensory surfaces of all the 5 organs are known as pasada. In the case of eye, ear, nose, tongue, the sensory surfaces are located in particular spots, while the sensory surface of the body pervades the whole system.
There are 5 kinds of pasada rupa, corresponding to the 5 sense organs. 68. Sukuma rupas. Of the 28 kinds of rupa, 16 are classed as sukum, subtle, and 12 as odarika, gross. The physical objects of 1. Sight, 2. Hearing, 3. Scent, 4. Taste, and 5. Touch, which includes the element of V, extension, 6. Heat, and 7. Motion, and the 5 pasada rupa belong to the gross group. The remaining 16, which will be described in the chapter on rupa, belong to the subtle group. They are termed subtle as there is no collision on their part. 69. Namely, all the 89 types of consciousness. They are sometimes collectively treated as one object, as they all possess the identical characteristic of awareness. 70. Namely, the 52 mental properties. 71. This is a supramundane object which is perceived by the 8 kinds of supramundane consciousness. 72. Panyati is that which is made manifest. It is twofold, namely, nama panyati and atta panyati. The former means a name or term, such as chair, table, etc. The latter means the object or idea conveyed thereby. 73. What is time? Strictly speaking, it is mere a concept which does not exist in an absolute sense. On the other hand, what space is to matter, time is to mind. Conventionally, we speak of past, atita, present, pachupana, and future, anagata. Past is defined as that which has gone beyond its own state or the moments of genesis, development, and cessation. Atano sabhavam, upadadi kanam va atita atikantata atita. Present is that which on account of this and that reason enters, goes, exists above the moments of genesis, etc. Tantang karanam pachicha upadadikanam udham pana gata pravata pachupana. Future is that which has not yet reached both states. Tad ubayamti na agata sampata. According to Abhidhamma, each consciousness consists of 3 phases: upada, genesis; sthiti, development; and bhanga, dissolution or cessation. In the view of some commentators, there is no intermediate sthiti stage, but only the stages of arising and passing away. Each thought moment is followed by another. Time is thus the sine qua non of the succession of mental states. The fundamental unit of time is the duration of a thought moment. Commentators say that the rapidity of these fleeting thought moments is such that within the brief duration of a flash of lightning, there may be billions of thought moments. Matter, which also constantly changes, endures only for 17 thought moments, being the time duration for one thought process. Past is gone. Future has not come. We live only for one thought moment, and that slips into the irrevocable past. In one sense, there is only the eternal now. In another sense, the so-called present is the transitional stage from the future to the past. The Dictionary of Philosophy defines time as the general medium in which all events take place in succession or appear to take place in succession. Atas Halina states that time is a concept derived from this or that phenomenon, and it does not exist by nature, it is merely a concept. Tan tan upadaya panyato kalo nama so pane esa sabavoto avidyatmanata panyati matako eva. 74. All sense objects belong to the present. 75. Accordingly, yataraham, i.e. with respect to sense sphere javana, higher intellect, abhinya, and other sublime jhavanas. The 6 kinds of objects of the sense sphere jhavanas, with the exception of smiling consciousness, are present, past, future, and independent of time. The objects of the smiling consciousness are past, present, and future. The objects of the jhavanas by means of which the higher intellect, such as divine eye, divine ear, are developed, are past, present, future, and independent of time. The objects of sublime jhavanas may either be timeless or past. As nibbana is eternal, it does not belong to the past, present, or future. It is timeless. So is paññatti, independent of time. 76. This difficult passage needs some explanation. When a person is about to die, he sometimes recollects a good or bad action he has performed during his lifetime. The moral or immoral consciousness experienced at the particular moment arises now as a fresh consciousness. This is technically known as kamma. Being a thought, it is a dhammaramana, grasped through the mind door and is past. The object of the patisandhi, bhavanga, and chuti classes of consciousness of the subsequent life is this dhammaramana. At times, it may be a sign or symbol associated with the good or bad action. It may be one of the 5 physical objects viewed through one of the 6 doors as a present or past object. Suppose, for instance, one hears the Dhamma at the dying moment. In this case, the present audible word grasped through the ear becomes the object. It therefore follows that the object of the aforesaid 3 classes of consciousness of the following life becomes this kamma nimitta. Again, let us think that a dying physician sees through his mental eye the patients he has treated. Now this is a past ruparamana perceived through the mind door. Or again, let us think that a dying butcher hears the groans of cattle he has killed. The past audible object is presented to the person through the mind door. Kamma nimitta, therefore, may be past or present, viewed through one of the 6 doors. In some cases, some symbol of the place in which he is to be reborn, such as fire, flesh, celestial mansions, etc., may appear to the dying person. This is regarded as a present object perceived through the mind door. Gati nimitta is therefore a visual object, present in point of time and is perceived through the mind door. It should be noted that the patisandhi, bhavanga, and chuti thought moments of the sense sphere have for their objects a kamma nimitta, or a gati nimitta, perceived through one of the 6 doors in the immediately preceding life. Suppose, for instance, one hears the Dhamma at the dying moment. In this case, the present audible word grasped through the ear becomes the object. It therefore follows that the object of the aforesaid 3 classes of consciousness of the following life becomes this kamma nimitta. Again, let us think that a dying physician sees through his mental eye the patients he has treated. Now, this is a past rupalamanan, perceived through the mind door. Or again, let us think that a dying butcher hears the groans of cattle he has killed. The past audible object is presented to the person through the mind door. Kamma nimitta may therefore be past or present, viewed through one of the 6 doors. In some cases, some symbol of the place in which he is to be reborn, such as fire, flesh, celestial mansions, etc., may appear to the dying person. This is regarded as present object grasped through the mind door. Gati nimitta is therefore a visual object, present in point of time, and is perceived through the mind door. It should be noted that the patisandhi, bhavanga, and chuti thought moments of the sense sphere have for their objects a kamma nimitta, or a gati nimitta, perceived through one of the 6 doors in the immediately preceding life. In the case of all rupavachara patisandhi, etc., the object is always a past kama namitta, which is a concept, or panyati, such as a kasina symbol, perceived through the mind door. The object of the first and third arupa patisandhi, etc., is also a past concept, such as ananto akaso, infinite is space, in the case of the first, and the concept nathi kinchi, there is nothing, in the case of the third. These 2 concepts are regarded as kama namittas, perceived through the mind door. The object of the second and fourth arupa jhana patisandhi, etc., is a past mental object which serves as the kama namitta perceived through the mind door. As was explained in the first chapter, the second arupa consciousness was developed by taking the first arupa consciousness as the object, and the fourth with the third as the object. 77. The term yebulyana, mostly, is used to indicate the rebirth of one born in the asanya plane, where there is no consciousness. The commentary states that by the power of kama, some object, such as a kama namitta, presents itself to the patisandhi consciousness. 78. In Buddhism, an ordinary worldling is called a putujana, literally many folk, or one who is born again and again. Those who have attained the first 3 stages of sainthood are called sekas, that is, those who undergo a training. Those who have attained the final stage of sainthood, arahantship, are called asekas, who no more undergo any training. The sekas cannot comprehend the path and fruit consciousness of an arahant, because they have not attained that superior state, but worldly thoughts of an arahant they can. Similarly, the worldlings cannot comprehend the supramundane consciousness of the Seka saints. 79. Abhinya are the 5 kinds of higher knowledge. They are divine eye, divine ear, reminiscence of past births, reading the thoughts of others, and psychic powers. To develop these 5 abhinya, one must possess the 5th jhana. Not even with this developed sublime consciousness can a worldling or a seka comprehend the path and fruit consciousness of an arahant. It is only an arahant who can comprehend the path and fruit consciousness of an arahant. A detailed account of abhinya will appear in a latter chapter. 80. These 2 classes of consciousness are experienced only by arahants. 81. This is the manodwarava jhana, which occurs before every jhavana process. Hence, there is nothing that is beyond the scope of this consciousness. 82. Namely sense-sphere objects, sublime objects, supramundane objects, and concepts. 83. The object of the second arupa consciousness is the first arupa consciousness, while that of the fourth is the third. 84. That is, the object of the first arupa consciousness is the concept ananta akaso, infinite is space. That of the third is the concept nati kinchi, there is nothing. An explanation of these appears in the first chapter. All the rupa jhanas have concepts such as kasinas as their objects. 85. Namely, 23 sense-sphere resultants, plus 1 sense-door consciousness, plus 1 smiling consciousness equals 25. 86. Paritta, derived from pari plus root da, to break, to shorten, means lower or inferior. This refers to sense-sphere objects. 87. Namely, the moral, resultant, and functional second and fourth arupa chittas, vinyananchayatana, and neva sanya na sanyayatana. 88. Namely, 15 rupa jhanas, and moral, resultant, and functional first and third arupa jhanas, akasananyatana and akinchanyayatana. 15 plus 6 equals 21. 89. Vohara here refers to concepts such as kasinas, etc. 90. Namely, the 12 immorals and 8 sense-sphere morals and functionals disassociated with knowledge. 91. They are the 4 sense-sphere morals associated with knowledge and the 5th moral rupa jhana, abhihinya kusala chitta. 92. They are the 4 sense-sphere functionals, 5th functional rupa jhana, and mind-door apprehending, mano dwarava jhana.
Chakku, which stands for vision, sense of sight, and eye. Eye, however, is always in the present work to be understood as the seeing faculty or visual sense, and not as the physical or eye of flesh, ma masa chakku. The commentary gives an account of the eye, of which the following is the substance. First, the aggregate organism, sa sambhara chakku, a ball of flesh fixed in a cavity, bound by the socket bone beneath and by the bone of the eyebrow above, by the angles of the eye at the sides, by the brain within and by the eyelashes without. There are 14 constituents, the 4 elements, the 6 attributes dependent on them, viz. Color, odor, taste, sap of life, form, sanjhanam, and collocation, sambhavo, vitality, nature, body sensibility, kaya pasada, and the visual sentient organ. The last 4 have their source in karma. When the world, seeing an obvious, extended white object, fancies it perceives the eye, it only perceives the basis or seat of eye. And this ball of flesh, bound to the brain by nerve fibers, is white, black, and red, and contains the solid, the liquid, the lambent, and the gaseous. It is white by superfluity of humor, black by superfluity of bile, red by superfluity of blood, rigid by superfluity of the solid, exuding by superfluity of the liquid, inflamed by the superfluity of the lambent, quivering by the superfluity of the gaseous. But that sentient organ, pasada, which is there bound, inherent, derived from the 4 great principles, this is the visual sense, pasada chakku. Placed in the midst and in the front of the black disk of the composite eye, the white disk surrounding it, note that the iris is either not distinguished or is itself the black disk, and in the circle of vision, in the region where the forms of adjacent bodies come to appear, it permeates the 7 ocular membranes as sprinkled oil will permeate 7 cotton wicks. And so it stands, aided by the 4 elements, sustaining, maturing, moving, samuddiranam, like an infant prince and 4 nurses, feeling, bathing, dressing and fanning him, maintained by nutrition both physical and mental, protected by the normal span of life, invested with color, smell, taste and so forth, in size the measure of a louse's head, stands duly constituting itself the door of the seat of visual cognitions, etc. For, as it has been said by the commander of the doctrine, Sariputra, the visual sense by which he beholds forms is small and delicate, comparable to a louse's head. Sota pasada. This, situated within the cavity of the aggregate organism of the ear, and well-furnished fine reddish hairs, is in shape like a little finger style. Anguli Vehanam. ASL 310. Ghana pasada. This is situated inside the cavity of the aggregate nasal organism, in appearance like a goat's hoof. ASL 310. Jivha pasada. This is situated above the middle of the aggregate gustatory organism, in appearance like the upper side of the leaf of a lotus. ASL 310. Kaya pasada. The sphere of kaya, so runs the comment, ASL 111, is diffused over the entire bodily form just as oil pervades an entire cotton rag. The Buddhist Psychology, pp 173 to 181. 98. Hadayavattu, heart base. According to the commentators, Hridaya Vattu is the seat of consciousness. Tradition says that within the cavity of the heart, there is some blood, and depending on which lies the seat of consciousness. This was the cardiac theory that prevailed in the Buddha's time, and this was evidently supported by the Upanishads. The Buddha could have adopted this popular theory, but he did not commit himself. Mr. Ong in his compendium argues that the Buddha was silent on this point. He did not positively assert that the seat of consciousness was either in the heart or in the brain. In the Dhamma Sangani, the term Hridaya Vattu has purposely been omitted. In the Patthana, instead of using Hridaya as the seat of consciousness, the Buddha has simply stated Yam Rupam Nissaya, depending on that Rupa. Mr. Ong's opinion is that the Buddha did not want to reject the popular theory, nor did he advance a new theory that brain is the seat of consciousness as is regarded by modern scientists. See Buddhist Psychology, Introduction XXVII, and Compendium of Philosophy, pp 277 to 279. 99. Dhatu is derived from word dhara, to hold, to bear. That which carries its own characteristic mark is dhatu. They are so called since they are devoid of being or life, nissatta, nijjiva. For the sake of convenience, three technical terms are used here. They are panchavinyana dhatu, manodhatu, manovinyana dhatu. Panchavinyana dhatu is applied to the 10 sense impressions. Manodhatu is applied to the 2 types of receiving consciousness and 5-door adverting consciousness, sampachikchana and panchadwara vajjana. Manovinyana dhatu is applied to all the remaining classes of consciousness. 100. The 3 classes of investigating consciousness and the 8 great resultants do not arise in the formless sphere, owing to the absence of any door or any function there. 101. To attain the first stage of sainthood, one must hear the word from another, parato ghosapachaya. 102. Smiling consciousness cannot arise without a body.
Buddhas and Pacceka Buddhas who experience such classes of consciousness are not born outside the human plane. 104. No rupa jhana consciousness arises in the arupa loka, as those persons born in such planes have temporarily inhibited the desire for rupa. 105. All the 43 types of consciousness stated above are dependent on the Hridaya Vattu. 10 plus 3 plus 3 plus 8 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1 plus 15 equals 43. 106. They are the 8 sobhana kusalas, 4 rupa kusalas, 10 akusalas, 1 manodvarava jhana, 8 sobhana kriya, 4 arupa kriya, 7 lokutaras, equals 42. These may arise in planes with the 5 aggregates or in planes with 4 aggregates, arupa loka. 107. I.e., 5 panchavinyana dhatus plus 1 manodhatu plus 1 manovinyana dhatu equals 7. 108. I.e., 1 chaku vinyana, 1 sota vinyana, 1 manodhatu, 1 manovinyana dhatu equals 4. 109. Namely, chaku, sota, and Hridaya Vattu. 110. Dhatu plus eka equals dvatveka. This refers to manovinyanat